Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into stress-free productivity using David Allen's Getting Things Done.
Yeah. We're going way beyond the basics. We're all familiar with the 5 stages, right?
Capture, process, organize.
Review, do.
Yeah.
So we can jump right into the good stuff.
Okay, so the mind like water concept. How do we get there? What makes it so important?
Well, think about it. When your mind is just like crammed with to-dos and worries, it's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. Just weighs you down, you know?
That's a great analogy. Definitely relate to that.
So one of GTD's core ideas is you got to capture everything. And I mean everything. Big deadlines, tiny errands, get it out of your head.
Into a system, right?
Right. Notebook, an app, whatever works. But then, of course, it's not just dumping it all in one giant list.
And I think that's where some people get stuck, right? They capture everything and then what?
Exactly. That's why processing is key. Alan's got a great decision tree. 2-minute rule. Can you do it now?
The 2-minute rule is amazing. It's incredible how much you can actually get done just by tackling those quick things right away.
Creates momentum.
Right. Yeah.
Then for the bigger stuff, that's where organizing comes in.
Okay, let's unpack that. It's about categories, right? Projects, next actions.
Exactly. But with hard edges. Like your projects list, that's outcomes, not tasks. What, not how.
So like planned summer vacation is a project, but the actual steps are somewhere else.
Right. Those are your next actions.
Yeah.
Key to stopping procrastination.
Let's dive into those next actions. That's where things actually happen, right?
It's all about taking those big, scary projects and making them into tiny steps. But lots of people write these vague next actions, like work on presentation.
Not actionable. So what's a good next action?
Needs to be specific, and you could do it right now. Gather data for slides, draft the outline, like that.
So really granular steps to move the project forward.
Exactly. Makes it less scary, for one. And no more decision fatigue. You just look at your list and you know exactly what to do.
Removes that barrier of where do I even begin?
Exactly. And once you've got those actions, then you can use contexts.
Okay, contexts. Group the actions based on where you are or what tools you need, right?
Exactly. A computer, errands, phone calls, stuff like that. That way, you've got a few minutes free.
You can knock out some calls, get some errands done.
You got it. Makes the most of those little bits of time. It's like having a custom productivity menu.
Yeah.
For whatever situation you're in.
Okay, I like that. So it's all about taking control, right?
Right.
But not just doing more.
Right. It's about doing what matters. And that's where horizontal versus vertical control comes in.
Okay, let's talk about that. Is it about making sure those daily tasks connect to the bigger goals?
It is.
Yeah.
Horizontal control is like the wide-angle lens, or all your commitments working together.
Yeah.
Vertical is diving deep into one specific project, making sure there's a plan.
Connecting the dots, basically. How do we do that?
Alan's got this threefold model for identifying daily work.
Yeah.
There's the stuff from your lists, the stuff that just pops up, and then the work of defining the work.
Finding balance between those three. So it's like, I have my next actions list, but I also need to be flexible.
Absolutely. You need to handle those unexpected things and, of course, make time to plan.
So it's moving from just reacting to stuff to being more proactive.
You got it. And that's how we get that mind-like-water calmness. But it's not just systems. It's mindset, too.
All right, let's talk mindset. What kind of mental shift do we need for GTD?
A big one is accepting that, well, you're never really done. There's always going to be more to do.
Okay, that sounds a little demoralizing at first.
No, but it's liberating. Like, stuff just keeps coming at you. GTD helps you handle that without going crazy.
So less about controlling everything and more about...
Choosing how you respond, focus on your actions.
That makes sense. Not just doing more, but doing the right things. And doing them.
With a sense of ease, right? That's key. Which brings us to the weekly review.
Ah, yes. The weekly review. Always struggled with that. Feels like just another thing to do.
It's not just another thing. Think of it as like a mental tune-up and a planning session all rolled into one.
Okay, that does sound better. What does a weekly review actually look like?
Well, first you got to get clear, process your inboxes, go over your lists, all that. But then you zoom out.
Zoom out.
Yeah. Look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Are you on track with your goals? The weekly reviews where you make adjustments. Make sure you're not just busy, but you're doing the things that matter.
I can see how that would be valuable. But I'm still intimidated by the idea of finding a big chunk of time every week.
Doesn't have to be huge. Start with 30 minutes. See how it goes.
Okay.
Make it a ritual,
Yeah.
Same time every week. Stick to it.
Consistency is key, right? Like with any habit.
Absolutely. The more you do it, the easier it gets, and, well, the more you get out of it. Clearer mind, more control, focus on what really matters.
Okay, so the weekly review helps keep things on track. But what about Allen's six-level model? What's that all about?
Think of it like different altitudes, to look at your work from. Starts at the ground level, those current actions. Then it goes up. Current projects, areas you're responsible for, goals for the next year or two.
Okay, I see. So it's like zooming out further and further.
Exactly. Long-term visions, and then ultimately your life purpose.
That's quite the climb. But I get how, considering each level, it helps make sure you're actually working towards those bigger aspirations. It's easy to get lost in the day-to-day, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Easy to lose sight of the forest for the trees. This model gives you a framework to regularly check in with yourself. Are you on the right path? Like, let's say one of your goals is writing a book.
Right, one of those 1 to 2 year goals.
During your weekly review, you ask yourself, are the projects I'm doing now helping me get there? If not, well, maybe it's time to shift gears.
That's a good point, like a built-in accountability system. But I feel like defining your life purpose, that can be tough for some people.
It can be. It doesn't have to be some big grand statement, though. Think of it as like, what are your guiding principles? What impact do you want to have on the world?
I like that. It's like finding your North Star gives your life direction. But even with that, I think actually taking action is hard for a lot of people, especially with big tasks. Any GTD advice for beating procrastination?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The 4 criteria model for choosing actions. It's super helpful when you're feeling stuck, not sure what to tackle next.
Okay, 4 criteria. I'm all ears.
First, context. Where are you? What tools you got? Then, how much time do you have? Third, your energy level. Feeling drained or ready to go. And then finally, you think about the priority.
So it's about being strategic, basically.
Exactly. Match your actions to your current situation. Your energy level is important.
Yeah.
Like, I used to try to push through when I was exhausted. It never worked.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
That's where Allen's energy available scale helps. Rate yourself 1 to 10. Then pick tasks that fit your current state. Don't force yourself to do something complex when you're running on fumes.
That's a good tip. Working with your energy, not against it. But I think a lot of people, myself included, we have trouble letting go of things.
Oh, yeah, it's so common. We hang on to tasks and projects way too long.
Yeah,
Just because we already put time and energy into them.
it's that sunk cost feeling, right?
Exactly. But GTD helps you step back. Ask yourself, is this still important? Am I really committed to this? Maybe it's time to let it go.
That can be tough to admit, but I bet it's really freeing once you do.
It is. You create space for new opportunities, new commitments, things that actually matter to you now. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you're growing, changing.
That's a great point. Now, you mentioned GTD working for all areas of life, not just work. What does that look like?
Think of GTD as a framework, right?
Yeah.
It works for any commitment. Career, relationships, your health, even your hobbies. Capture, process, organize, review, do.
So I could use it to plan a family vacation.
Sure. Your project is plan family vacation. Capture all the ideas, the to-dos, break it down into actions, research destinations, book flights, all that.
I see. Same level of organization. But wouldn't some people feel like that takes the fun out of their personal life?
It's not about sucking the joy out of things. It's about creating more freedom, more space for the things you actually enjoy. When you're not weighed down by all that mental clutter, you can be more present.
Right, so you can enjoy those moments with family and friends more, or really get into your hobbies.
Exactly. And that's the power of mind like water. It's not just about being productive. It's about living a better life.
I love that. But even with all the tools and techniques, a lot of people struggle with consistency, right? They start strong, then fall back into old habits.
Consistency is key. And it really comes down to finding the right tools for you, what works best for your style.
So personalization is important.
Totally. Some people love those task management apps. Others, they got to have pen and paper. Experiment. See what clicks for you.
And I imagine patience is key too. Building new habits takes time.
Oh, definitely. Don't beat yourself up if you slip up. Just keep coming back to those GTD principles. Refine your system as you go. It's a journey, not a destination.
That's a good reminder. It's not about perfection. It's about finding what works to help you live a better, more intentional life.
You got it. And speaking of intentional, let's talk about digital life, right? Emails, notifications, messages. It's a recipe for overwhelm these days. How does GTD help with that? That's a big one. It's about making choices. What do you want to engage with? Don't be ruled by every notification.
Be more intentional with our online time. But how do we actually do that? It's so easy to get sucked in.
Boundaries are key.
Yeah.
Decide when you'll check email, social media, all that, and then stick to it.
Easier said than done, I think. Breaking those habits of constantly checking our phones and stuff.
Oh, it takes effort for sure. You know what helps? Schedule offline time on your calendar.
Literally block it off.
Yep, just like a meeting. It's about treating your offline time as important.
Makes sense. It's not about avoiding technology completely.
Right, it's about finding a good balance
Yeah,
where you're in control, not letting it drain you.
that's a good point. Now, something else I think a lot of people struggle with, their physical workspace. I know when my desk is a mess, my mind feels messy too.
Oh, absolutely. Your environment, it affects you.
Yeah.
Big time. Alan's got these 5 S's for a good workspace, supports clarity and focus.
So it's about functionality, not just looking nice.
Right. Sort, straighten, shine, standardize, sustain.
Okay, break those down for me.
Sort is decluttering. Get rid of the junk. Straighten is organizing what's left. Everything has its place. Shine is cleaning. Keep it tidy. Then standardize. You create routines to maintain it all. And sustain, that's about keeping it up over time.
I like how practical that is. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to work for you.
Exactly. You'd be surprised how much of a difference a good workspace makes. Mentally.
Now, we've talked a lot about tasks and projects, but what about relationships? How does GTD fit in there?
Be more intentional. More proactive. Think of it like GTD for your heart, not just your head.
GTD for your heart. Okay, I like that. So do we, make next actions for our relationships?
You could. Think about what you want to do. Nurture those connections, right? Send a card. Grab coffee. Just have a good conversation. Capture those things. Process them. Schedule them in.
Like any other important task.
Exactly. Be more mindful, more deliberate. Don't let those relationships slip away because life gets busy.
Even small things can make a difference, right?
Absolutely. Think about who you're grateful for. Make a note to express that gratitude. A text, a phone call, anything.
That's a great reminder. Bring that same GTD mindset to your relationships, and I bet that makes you feel better overall.
No doubt about it. Good relationships make you feel connected, supported. That energy, it flows into everything else.
Absolutely. Now, we've covered a lot of ground, but I want to talk about this idea of holistic productivity.
That's where it all comes together. GTD isn't just about checking things off a list. It's about living a good life, a balanced life, you know?
So taking care of yourself, too, physically, emotionally.
Exactly. GTD helps you fit those things in. Exercise, eating well, sleep, relaxing, spending time with people you love, being creative, whatever nourishes you.
It's like expanding what productivity even means.
Right. It's not just about work. It's about making choices that create a good life on all levels.
But how do we actually fit those non-work things into the system? Seems like they could get lost easily.
You got to be intentional. Schedule them in, just like a meeting or a project.
So if I want to exercise more, I block off time for a walk or going to the gym.
Exactly. Want to paint?
Yeah.
Block off time for that. Treat it as important as your work stuff.
So taking care of yourself is productive.
It is. And when you feel good, you're more productive anyway.
True. It's a cycle. Now, let's talk about a challenge I think a lot of people face, that feeling of overwhelm.
Oh, overwhelm. We all feel it. But GTD can actually help.
Really? How so?
Remember capturing everything. When you get those thoughts and worries out of your head, it creates space.
Like taking those mental sticky notes and putting them somewhere else so you can actually deal with them.
Exactly. And once you've captured it all, then you can start processing, organizing, break it down into smaller pieces.
And that creates a sense of control.
It does. You go from reacting to things to being proactive. Instead of feeling bombarded, you're making choices about how you spend your time and energy.
I see what you mean. But I think some people might resist capturing everything. They might feel like it's too much work or that they'll end up with this huge to-do list.
It's not about creating a to-do list, though. It's about getting it out of your head.
Right, so you can think more clearly.
Exactly. And once you get into the habit, it's not that hard. Use whatever tools work for you. Notebook, app, voice memos, capture it all.
That's reassuring, so you don't forget those ideas or those important things that pop into your head at the worst times.
Exactly. It's like having an assistant, always ready to take notes. You can relax, knowing you won't forget.
I like that analogy. You've mentioned mindfulness a few times. How does that fit in with GTD?
Mindfulness is great for getting to that mind-like water place. It's about being present, without judgment, just noticing your thoughts and feelings, but not getting carried away by them.
So being more aware, both at work and in life in general.
Yeah. And it's really helpful for stress. When you're stressed, your mind races, right? Mindfulness helps you step back from those thoughts.
So you don't get swept away by them.
Exactly. It's like a superpower for stress.
Well, maybe not a superpower, but it sounds useful.
It is. And there are easy ways to practice it, meditation, or even just paying attention to your breath while you're walking or something.
I like that. Simple things you can do every day.
Even a few minutes can make a difference. It helps you calm down, focus better.
Essential for that mind-like water state.
Hmm.
Now, mindfulness can also help with how we react to problems, right? It's easy to let negative emotions take over.
Oh, for sure. Mindfulness helps you find balance. You observe your emotions without judgment. Let them come and go.
So instead of just reacting, you can choose how to respond.
Exactly. It gives you that space to pause, reflect, instead of just being on autopilot.
That's so important, especially if we're trying to stay calm and focused with GTD.
Absolutely. When you can manage your emotions, you don't get derailed so easily. You can stay on track even when things get tough.
No, I want to go back to mental RAM. You mentioned that before.
Yeah. It's like a computer, right? Your brain only has so much short-term memory available if you overload it.
Everything slows down, you make mistakes.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to get things out of your head, onto that external system.
So it's not about trying to remember everything.
Nope, it's about having a system to handle it for you.
That frees up space to think more creatively.
You got it. Solve problems. All those important things.
Makes sense. Now, we capture everything that grabs our attention, but what about the stuff we intentionally put off? How do we keep track of that without it cluttering our minds?
That's where the someday maybe list comes in, for those ideas and projects you're not ready for yet.
Like a holding tank for future possibilities.
Exactly. It gets it out of your head, but you don't forget about it. Then, during your weekly review or whenever, you can check back, see if anything's become more important.
That's helpful. Keeps track of stuff but doesn't let it distract you now.
Right. It's about supporting your current work and your future goals.
Now, another thing people struggle with is delegation. They want to do everything themselves, or they're afraid to ask for help. What's the GTD approach?
Delegation's not about dumping work on people. It's about empowering them. And it's essential if you want to be really productive.
So you're using everyone's strengths, working together.
Exactly. First, you got to pick the right person for the task.
Someone with the right skills.
Right. Then, clearly define what needs to happen. What does success look like? What do they need to deliver?
Clear expectations from the start.
Then, give them what they need to do the job. Information, tools, training, whatever. Set a deadline and follow up.
Makes sense, but some people still resist delegating, worried about losing control or that it won't be done right.
It's about shifting from control to trust. When you delegate well, you're empowering people. And if you set clear expectations, you can be confident it'll be done well.
So you let go of that need to micromanage.
Right. Delegation builds relationships, helps people grow, it makes for a better work environment overall. Now, besides the practical stuff, GPD is also about a certain mindset, right? You mentioned acceptance, letting go. It's about realizing, things change. We can't control everything. There's always going to be more to do. That's just life.
So focus on what you can control.
Your choices, your actions, how you respond to things.
Doesn't mean you give up, though.
No, it actually makes you more creative, more resilient.
That's a good way to look at it. Now, I'm curious about the vision board. Always seemed a little too out there for me.
The vision board. It's about making your goals visual. You use pictures, words, anything that represents what you want.
So you have this reminder of your dreams, your goals.
Exactly. And I mean, maybe it doesn't magically make things happen.
Right.
But it helps you get clear about what you want. Stay motivated.
But how does it fit in with GTD?
It's a good way to keep those big goals in mind, the ones that get lost in the daily grind. Look at it regularly, and you'll make sure your actions are taking you where you want to go.
Keeps those big dreams alive.
Exactly. It's not just about specific goals either. It's about creating a life that you really want.
I like that. So GTD is more than just productivity. It's a way to create a life that's truly your own.
That's it. Now, let's talk about something else everyone struggles with. Managing our time.
Ugh, time management. It's a constant battle.
Especially these days. So many demands, so many distractions. But GTD has some good strategies for taking control.
Not just doing more, but doing the right things.
Exactly. One of the best is time blocking.
Okay, time blocking. What's that?
You schedule specific blocks of time for different things. So instead of just reacting to whatever comes up, you decide how you want to spend your day.
Like an hour for email in the morning, 2 hours for a project in the afternoon, then family time in the evening.
That's it. It creates structure, reduces stress, helps you get more done.
So you're being more proactive.
Exactly. Doesn't have to be super rigid, though. You can always adjust things. But having that plan, it gives you a sense of control, helps you prioritize.
Like you're the architect of your own time.
Exactly. And it's especially good if you procrastinate a lot or get distracted easily.
Because when you have that time slot set aside, it's harder to blow it off.
Right. And it breaks down big tasks into smaller chunks so you don't get overwhelmed.
You just focus on that one block at a time.
And as you finish those blocks, you start to feel good, like you're making progress.
It builds momentum. Now, I bet there are psychological benefits to time blocking, too.
Oh, absolutely. When you're in control of your time, you feel better, less stressed, more focused, and that feeling of control is empowering.
That makes sense. All right, I want to circle back to holistic productivity one more time. It's not just about getting things done, it's about creating a good life, right?
That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Real productivity is about a life that reflects your values, your priorities, a life that makes you happy.
Taking care of yourself is part of that.
It is. And GTD can help you fit those things in. Exercise, healthy food, sleep, relaxation, time with loved ones, creative stuff, whatever feeds your soul.
It's like productivity means more than just work.
Right. It's about making choices, making sure there's space in your life for the things that really matter to you.
So it all comes down to being more intentional.
Exactly. And that can change everything for the better. Your relationships, your health, your creativity.
Now, I know we've talked about a lot of the good stuff, but let's be real. What are some challenges people face with GTD?
Well, I think just getting started can be hard. GTD seems like a lot, especially if you're trying to do everything at once.
Yeah, I can see that.
My advice, start small, pick one area of your life, and try it out there. Work, home, projects, whatever. Once you get the hang of it, you can do more.
Break it down into smaller steps.
Exactly. And be patient. It takes time to build new habits. GTD is not a quick fix, it's a process. You're going to slip up sometimes. That's okay. Just keep coming back to it.
So it's a journey.
It is. And it's not about being perfect. It's about finding what works for you.
That's encouraging. Another challenge I think people have is finding the right tools, apps, planners, filing systems. There are so many options.
Oh, yeah. And there's no right answer. It depends on you. Some people love digital. Some people need pen and paper. It's about figuring out what works for you.
Right. What do you like to use? What's your style?
Yeah. Once you have a better sense of that, then you can start trying things out.
And are there resources that can help with that? I mean, finding the right tools?
Oh, tons. Books, articles, websites. There are even whole online communities, all about GTD and productivity. It's a good way to learn from people who are already doing it.
That's a good idea. So it's about tapping into that community, that collective wisdom.
Yeah. And remember, there's no perfect tool. The goal is to find what works for you, what helps you reach your goals.
That makes sense. All right, so we've covered so much today, and I feel like I have a much better grasp on GTD now, not just for work, but for, life in general. But before we wrap up, I'm curious, what do you think makes this system so effective? Why has it stuck around for so long?
I think it's because it taps into something really basic, that need to feel in control. In a world that feels, I don't know, kind of crazy sometimes, out of control. GTD gives you a way to create order in your life, but also in your mind.
That's a good point. It's about reclaiming that control, that power to make choices.
Exactly. And it's not about becoming some kind of productivity robot. It's about building a system that helps you live a better life, a life that you're happy with.
Okay, that's great. So to wrap up our deep dive into GTD, what's one thing you want our listeners to remember?
More than anything, I want you to see that GTD is more than just a bunch of tips and tricks. It's a whole way of thinking about work, about life, and it can really help you find more clarity, more focus, and more peace of mind.
That's powerful stuff. And a good reminder that true productivity isn't just about checking boxes. It's about building a life you love, a life that's both productive and fulfilling.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive for today. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your insights with us. It's been a great conversation.
It has been. And for everyone listening, I encourage you to give some of this a try. Experiment. See what works for you. You might be surprised what you discover.
Until next time, keep diving.